You're listening to the Platform Launchers podcast. I'm John Stange, and it's great to have you with us as always this week because we're about to talk about building and growing and monetizing your online platform, taking your passion, turning it into a platform, helping that become your paycheck. We do this every week. We get on YouTube here. We get on our podcast. We create some content here to share some tips and tricks that'll help you as you build your online platform. If you're a message-based entrepreneur, this is definitely the show for you, and we're glad to have you with us. Now, this week, we're going to be revisiting the thought of podcasting. It's been a few months since we last talked about podcasting, and what we're going to be talking about this week is this idea of making the most of the growth of podcasting, even if you don't have your own show. You may be aware of this, maybe you're not, but podcasting continues to grow. And if you're a message-based online entrepreneur, making the most of podcasting is something that will have, I believe, a great benefit for your overall platform. So I'm looking forward to getting more into that subject in just a moment, but I have something new that I want to tell you about first, and that's something that you'll find at platformlaunchers.com. We had something brand new go live on the site just a few days ago, and I want to draw your attention to it. If you go to platformlaunchers.com, right across the top menu, you'll see a new link for our bookstore. And or you could just go directly to platformlaunchers.com/bookstore. But on that page, you will find books that have been written by the members of our members club. I asked our members club to start submitting links to their books to me during the course of this week. We've got a whole bunch of people in the group that are already in the process of writing books. Some are writing a second or a third book. Some are writing their first book, but others have a whole series of books that they've already published, and we want to start giving some just some space to those books and highlighting those. So if you're looking for something practical to read, encouraging to read, uplifting to read, we've got all sorts of genres represented in the bookstore. Just head over to platformlaunchers.com and check out that bookstore tab and show some love to some of our members here. Pick up some of their books. You're going to be glad that you did. You're going to be learning some new things and being encouraged in a variety of ways. Some really, really good and really useful books are now in that bookstore over at our website, and we encourage you to check that out when you get the opportunity. Now, as I mentioned just a moment ago, this week we're talking about podcasting. And I was thinking about the timetable of how long I've been interested in podcasting, and I would say it was just about 10 years ago from when I'm recording this, when I first took a real big interest in podcasting. And I remember when I first got into it, I would talk about it with others because I thought it was just fantastic. And when I would mention the concept of podcasting to others, the typical response I would get at the time was, "What is that? What are you talking about?" No one seemed to know what podcasting was. And I was surprised. It seemed like it took forever to really catch on. It wasn't really a medium that many people were familiar with at the time. But since then, so over the past decade in particular, that's drastically changed. The awareness of podcasting has grown and grown and grown. And at this point, podcasting is a major part of the media landscape. And one of the things that I've noticed in recent years in particular is that there are many people who make the majority of their income from the shows that they're creating. Now, some people just create audio. Some people also make sure that there's video that they share on YouTube or similar sites. You could take whatever approach you would like with that, but regardless, it's now become a major source of income for many people that have online platforms. It's a fascinating thing to watch that develop. People have started gravitating toward podcasting. But here's the thing. Podcasting is useful for more than just making an income. It's not just about making an income. It might be the means, maybe the main means some of us use to share the message we feel most passionate about with the highest number of people. I have to testify from a personal standpoint. I had no concept when I started my podcasts just how much that was going to become a major facet of my life and how that was going to allow me to connect with more people than I had ever connected with before. But my shows very much allow me to do just that. They allow me to connect with more people on a daily basis than any other form of media that I've utilized up to this point. So get that in the back of your mind. If you've ever thought about creating podcast content, they can become a major driver of connection or just awareness for your platform. But here's the thing, podcasting, in addition to becoming I guess a way to connect with people. And in addition to it being a source of income, it can also be an excellent way to begin spreading word of some of the other things you're doing. So many of the people in our group, as I mentioned just a moment ago, are authors. And again, take me up on that offer to check out our bookstore page. You're going to find a lot of great content there. But I would say if you're listening to the podcast right now, or if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're an author, podcasts can help you spread word of what you've written, I should say. There are people that will find out about your book and your content through interviews you do and through other things that allow you to promote your content via podcasts. I have to say, a lot of the most recent books that I've purchased because I heard an interview with the author on a podcast. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you're an author, if you're a coach. I know some of the people in our group are coaches. Some of you listening to this podcast right now might be a coach, and you're looking to reach new clients. You can reach clients very effectively through the means of podcasting. It can be a very effective way to be able to build a client base. Creating podcast content, by the way, is also a great way to connect with and network with other podcasters. So there's multiple things that can be benefits from getting involved in the podcasting world. And when you think about connecting with and networking with people, many people that get involved in podcasting eventually bring their show into a formalized network of shows that allow them to have a little bit more synergy with others, because podcasts by nature tend to be collaborative. And I remember a while back, I made the decision to actually join a podcast network, when the director of acquisitions for this particular network sent me a message and told me that I could join their network, enjoy the synergy of the promotion that they gave my shows, but I would still maintain complete liberty to continue creating content like I had in the past. But he said in the midst of that, there were just two non-negotiables I had to agree to if I was going to be a long-term fit with their network. The first one was I had to do feed swaps with other similar shows on the network. I didn't have any problem with that. And then I also had to do some cross promos with other network affiliated shows. I had no problem with that. That sounded like a win-win scenario. But when you look at that, why do you suppose that director insisted on those two stipulations? Why were these two things that he really said had to be non-negotiables if I was going to be brought into that podcasting network? Well, he insisted on these things and he said there were requirements because these are two of the primary ways that new shows gain exposure. This is how people find out about these things. Without this kind of form of collaboration or cooperation, the overall network would take just a long time to develop. And he wanted to make sure that shows were promoting other shows. So I love doing that. I was happy to do that. I love collaborating with other podcasters. And even before I was part of a network, I was happy to do so. Sometimes I've collaborated with people who make the same kind of content I make. On occasion, I've collaborated with others who make different kinds of content, but I've done so just to be generous and hopefully give their show or platform a friendly boost and maybe enjoy a friendly boost that my content would get from associating with them. But when collaboration's done with a generous spirit, all parties win. I think it feels good to help somebody out, feels good to be helped. I think collaborating with others is a great way to increase your podcast audience. And when we think about collaboration, so first, let me speak here to those of you that already have shows and you're looking to gain some exposure for some of the things that you're doing. I'd like to suggest several effective ways to collaborate. And then as soon as I share these things, I want to jump into a quick conversation with those of you who, as of yet, don't have a show. And I want to talk about ways that you could be utilizing podcasts to give a huge boost to your online platform. But let's talk about different ways that we can collaborate really quickly if you do have a podcast. Guest appearances is one of the most effective and obvious ways to collaborate when you're doing podcasting. So this is the idea of just inviting guests who are relevant to your niche to appear on your show. Guest appearances, it's done all the time. Some shows are exclusively guest appearances from other people. But one of the benefits for you when you have the opportunity to be a guest on another show is that it allows you to tap into the existing audience of another podcaster and gain new listeners or new eyes on your products or your services within your platform. And then in return, you can offer to promote their brand or their podcast to your audience. So guest appearances, fantastic. Similar to that, similar to what I just mentioned about cross promotions, is just the idea of doing a direct cross promotion. So cross promotion involves promoting one another's podcasts in your intro or your outro. I've done that from time to time for other shows where I've talked about them in the intro to my show or the outro to my show, and they've done that for me. You could also take that one a step further by promoting each other in social media or email newsletters if you have one of those, or on your website. And one of the fun aspects or benefits that comes from that is that it can help both shows reach new audiences and gain greater visibility. But here's another concept, something else we can utilize if we're going to gain some exposure for the podcast or for our platforms via podcasts. Another thing that you can do is through creating joint episodes. And I wonder, if you're listening right now, if you've ever considered doing that. Have you ever considered collaborating with another podcaster to create a joint episode? I've done this several times. And the way this often works is that you record an episode together, but then you use it on each other's show. So you're doing an interview and you're creating an episode at the same time. It basically saves you time and allows you to be introduced to another audience at the same time. And it can be a great way to tap into each other's audiences. It could offer your listeners a fresh perspective and gain some variety for your show if you feel like maybe your show could use an added boost of variety. Something else that's kind of useful when it comes to ways in which to collaborate with other podcasters and give your show a boost at the same time is through affiliate marketing. Many podcasters have products that they themselves are creating. Sometimes they have courses, sometimes they have other materials that they would be happy to partner with you to help cross promote. And so affiliate marketing is the way to do that. And what you do is you partner with other podcasters to promote each other's affiliate products, and you then earn a commission. If you sell some of their product through your show, they pay you a commission for any sales made through your unique affiliate link. There are podcasters that I have done this with regularly. In fact, I have one just ongoing established relationship with another group of podcasters where if anything I promote from them is something that's utilized, that I receive a commission. And if I promote any of their things, they get a commission back and forth, right? If we're promoting each other's things, or if they're promoting my things, they get a commission. I guess that'd be the right way to say that. One other thing that oftentimes goes pretty well with established podcasts is the idea of guest blogging, where you offer to write guest blog posts for other podcasters or just bloggers, if you want to just focus on the blogging world in your niche. And oftentimes what you can do with that is you can reuse a post that you've already written, make some slight adjustments to it, and make it a more precise fit for the platform that you're sharing it on. But basically, all those areas of collaboration, they're very commonly done. I like doing all of them. Maybe one or two of those would be something that would fit with you, but there's something about being generous and being collaborative that I think makes the process of creating online content more enjoyable. It's more enjoyable when you go about it with a collaborative spirit. I often encourage people, don't look at others as your competition. They're not your competition. If you develop a mindset of being competitive in this space, that can quickly turn into selfishness. I personally don't want to be a selfish person. I'm sure many of you that are listening to the show right now don't want to be selfish people. Collaboration helps us not go down the selfish route when it comes to promoting our content online or creating online content for others to consume. I look at it this way. I would rather be a blessing to others and then generously share what I have the ability to share than to be selfish with these very things. And the truth is, I'm convinced that everything I have ever shared has come back to me tenfold or more. And I'm sure that you'll experience the same thing. But all of those collaborative ideas that I just mentioned there, some of them common, some of them not as common, are things that are kind of useful if you already have your podcast in place. But what should you do if you're someone who values podcasting, but you don't have your own show? Is there a way that you could utilize the means of podcasting to actually gain added exposure for what you're doing? Well, let me offer several good suggestions that I think can be very helpful in that realm. First of all, if you're connected with a podcaster who even if you don't have your own show, but if you're connected with a podcaster who has a show that fits pretty well with your primary topic, offer to provide regular guest spots or segments that might be interesting to his or her audience. So here's how this works. Podcasting hosts are always looking for new and interesting content. They want to keep their shows fresh. And very much like you've seen done on news channels or news stations, where they'll have a segment from somebody who just regularly brings something in, and they'll just have a quick 5-minute segment where they talk about a specific topic. And people look at that as a regular feature of a TV show. You can very much do that on a podcast if you're connected with a particular show that fits with your niche and you don't really want to create a whole podcast ecosystem. You just want to have a regular guest spot or a segment. That's something you can offer to an existing podcaster that, in the right context, they might take you up on, because that's fresh content for them. That's useful content for them. That's something that keeps their show fresh for their own listeners. Something else that I would encourage you to do, and maybe you've heard me bring this up before, but I know it's been a long time since I've mentioned this. One of the things that I like to encourage people who don't have a show of their own to do is to offer themselves as a last-minute guest to several shows in case those shows have an unexpected guest cancellation. Few things are as much of a bummer as when you're planning to go live with a show and your guest cancels. And a lot of times that puts a podcast host who creates a weekly show or even a daily show in an unfortunate predicament. And so if you offer yourself as a last-minute guest for shows, if they ever have a cancellation, you might find that approach working really well with hosts that you already have a relationship with, and they start to bank on you as someone they can bring in last minute because you're faithful to do that. But it can also give you an in with shows that as of yet you're looking to make a meaningful connection with, but you don't really have that connection built up. Serving them in that way by being a last minute guest, if they ever get a cancellation, really does meet a huge need for podcast hosts that rely on good guest content. One other thing that I'll mention here, and this is something that I recently did with Becky Kapitsky, who was a guest just a couple months ago here on the podcast. If this works, whether you have your own show or whether you don't. But if you have an online platform of any kind, you could do this, and that's to offer with a host to do a lead magnet swap. Now, a lead magnet is a digital freebie that you can give away in exchange for an email address. These are things that online platforms oftentimes offer because people want to be able to connect with listeners and readers more than just once. And so they'll give away something valuable for free in exchange for an email address. I do this with the 21-day platform development planning guide that we have on our website. I give it away for free in exchange for an email address. And then someone, when you download that, then you receive our newsletter, but it gives me the opportunity to connect with you more than once. Well, doing a swap with somebody else with their lead magnet, promoting it either to your newsletter or on your podcast or something like that, it can be of benefit to your audience because you're offering a digital download in a new category for them that could be valuable. But it's also beneficial for the person you're doing the swap with, because if people download that content, then they're on the email address list for that particular content creator, and it gives them an opportunity to have a second conversation with people that join their email list. And when this is done in a collaborative way, with a collaborative spirit, it can be a win for all parties, for those that end up joining the email lists, for those that are creating the podcast, and for those who are creating other content. So let me say this as we wrap up. Podcasting is a continually growing form of media. It's one of my favorite forms of media. I consume podcasts literally every single day of the week, and I have for years and years and years. And I would, if you're creating an online platform of any kind, some sort of message-based online platform, I would encourage you to get involved in podcasting in one of these ways, whether you create a show or whether you choose to get more involved in the ecosystem of podcasting, because the more involved you get in it, the more you're giving your platform an opportunity to experience a visibility boost. It's one of the most effective ways to get word of your platform out there. So again, whether you have your own show or whether you're wanting to connect with others who have their show, this could be a huge visibility boost for what you're creating with your online platform. So if you have a show, start partnering with other guests. If you don't have a show, offer those hosts some of these options that I gave you. That's something of value that their audience might appreciate, and it might make their life a little bit easier as they produce their show, and the benefit you experience may be a great visibility boost for your own content. Before we finish up this week, I just want to remind you one last time to stop by platformlaunchers.com. You can check out our new bookstore page. Click that link right at the top of the page. You'll be able to see a lot of great books from some of the authors that are in our members club. And while you're on the website, you could also download our 21-day platform development planning guide. We'd love to offer that to you for free, and we hope it's super helpful. But that's it for us this week. It's always fun to be able to get together once a week and chat about these things. And we look forward to catching up with you again right here next week as we keep building, growing, and monetizing our online platforms. Have a great one and take care.